and we're going to go ahead and get started with this meeting, which is expected to be a pretty sweet night here as we take our city to new. I'm not going to say heights, but we're taking our city to another level with our general plan. So looks like we got a quorum here. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, and we'll go to our city clerk, Wendy Wood, for the roll call.
Councilmember Fan? Councilmember Dominguez?
Present.
Councilmember Chua?
Here.
Vice Mayor Montano?
Here.
Mayor Tran?
Here. Thank you so much, Wendy. We appreciate you. Moving on here to the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand as you may. And I'll leave the pledge. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, great. Moving on here to the public forum. We are here tonight to adopt the resolution certifying the general plan, and I want to welcome all our community members for being here tonight to really take part in the process. And if any member of the public would like to speak on the general plan, we can take your comments once we get to item number one. But right now it is the public forum, and we want to keep this point of the agenda open to all. So let me check in here. I do encourage folks to talk about the general plan once we get to item number one. But if there's anything else folks are here for, you're always more than welcome to comment and things. Public forum is right now. We're doing 2 minutes tonight. I want to do 2 minutes tonight. Public forum. There's no one. We're going to keep it going here. Moving on here. Okay, no public forum. I don't see any requests. Moving on to announcements. Let's go to our city manager, Steve McHarris.
Given a special meeting and all, I have no announcements this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, great. Hey, it's routine. I got to check in with you. Me neither. No announcements from me. Looking to my colleagues if there's anything. If not, that's okay too. Moving on here, an announcement of conflict of interest. Let's go to our city attorney, Chris. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. Just wanted to ask the council and the mayor if whether he or she has any financial or personal conflict of interest related to the item on tonight's agenda. Councilmember Fan is absent, so we'll go in order. Councilmember Dominguez?
None.
Thank you. Councilmember Chua?
None.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Montano? I see none.
None.
Thank you. And Mayor Tran?
None.
Thank you. Let the record reflect none to the question. Mayor, if you like, I'd go on to read the council code of conduct if you like.
Yes, please.
Thank you. And I just wanted to know for the council, we're not asking the second question on campaign contributions because we have no contracts or development projects on the agenda tonight. But the council code of conduct is this: be respectful and courteous. Words, tone, and body language matter. Model civility. Avoid surprises. Praise publicly and criticize privately. Focus on the issue, not the person. Refrain from using electronic devices while on the council dais. Disclose conflicts of interest and affiliations related to agenda items. Separate governing from campaigning. The council speaks with one voice after making policy on issues. Respect the line between policy and administration. And then finally, the council will hold one another accountable to comply with this code of conduct. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Moving on here to the approval of agenda. I move to approve the agenda. Looking for a second.
Second.
You have a second by Vice Mayor Montano. All in favor of virtual roll call. Councilmember Dominguez.
Aye.
Councilmember Chua.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano.
Aye.
Myself is denied. The agenda. The agenda is approved. And so here we are moving on to the big show, public hearing number one and only. Let's adopt the resolution certifying the Milpitas 2040 general plan final environmental impact report and adopting the Milpitas 2040 general plan. And at this time, I want to go straight to our city manager, Steve McCarron.
Well, thank you, and good evening, Mayor Tran and members of the council. I do have a few opening remarks in introducing the Milpitas 2040 general plan and the final environmental impact report agenda item before handing it over to Planning Director Ned Thomas. It's not often we find ourselves working on and adopting a new general plan. In fact, the existing general plan was adopted 27 years ago in 1994. Think about how much the world and Milpitas has changed since then. We're truly fortunate to have a meaningful and comprehensive plan under consideration this evening as we continue what I've described as a planning renaissance, with much of our land use and infrastructure planning coming to fruition this year. The Milpitas 2040 general plan establishes goals and policies for directing and managing the future growth and development of our community. For example, we use planning to address fundamental issues such as the location and rate of growth, the character of development, transportation and housing needs, economic vitality, sustainability, and environmental protection. The general plan offers us the opportunity to operate a city more efficiently and more cost effectively through coordinated planning. We reinforce our community's sense of place by incorporating environmental and aesthetic elements into the projects. We protect and enhance property values with our community plans for parks, trails, playgrounds, transit, and other amenities. In the world of COVID and beyond, we safeguard public health by providing opportunities for all residents to improve their health through greater physical activity and access to healthy foods and living situations. We promote public safety by designing our city with safer places to live, work, and travel. We increase fairness and opportunity to help ensure that the burdens of benefits of development are fairly shared by all members of our community. This includes increasing opportunities for our residents to attend quality schools, access good jobs, and participate in community life on an equal footing. We help our community prepare to meet future demands for public services and facilities such as water and sewer systems, roads and transit lines, fire and police stations, schools, parks, and our library. We ensure that transportation and other public facilities meet the needs of all members of our community and are safe, efficient, reliable, and environmentally sound. We place economic development and quality of life issues hand in hand because businesses want to locate in communities where the employees want to live. Our plan strives to offer residents and businesses a range of convenient and affordable choices for business locations, transportation, housing, schools, parks, open space, and other amenities. We protect the environment and conserve resources in ways that reduce energy use, promote waste reduction and recycling, and lower greenhouse gas emissions. So the de novo group and staff will review everything I mentioned, including our robust community engagement over the past several years, developing a general plan and an final environmental impact report that embodies our Milpitas community. So with that said, I'd like to turn it over to Planning Director Ned Thomas.
Thank you, City Manager Harrison. Good evening, Mayor Tran, Vice Mayor Montano, and members of the council. We're very pleased to be back with you again tonight, and this is a special meeting. It's a great milestone for the continuing development of the City of Milpitas, and I don't have much to add to what the City Manager has already introduced you to for this particular project. I would like to say that it's been a pleasure to work with all of you and the members of the General Plan Advisory Committee and the community over the past several years on this effort. And the general plan, of course, will lay a very strong policy foundation for all of the other planning work that is currently underway in the city, not the least of which is the Metro specific plan. Soon we will launch the update to the Metro plan, which will be renamed the Main Street Gateway Plan. We also have several, as you all know, we have several master plans underway: Parks and Recreation, Trails, Pedestrian, Bike Plan, several utility master plans, and the Economic Development Strategy, which you adopted last year. And all of these are consistent with the general plan, and they will work together to ensure a very bright future for the future development city of Milpitas. I want to acknowledge tonight our planning manager, Jessica Gardner, who's been the stalwart project manager for the general plan all these many years. And we also have our consultant, Ben Ritchie, here from De Novo Consulting, and we'll turn the time over to him for the presentation tonight, and then we'll entertain questions and comments. I'll turn the time over to Ben.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Ned. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. It's fantastic to be before you again this evening. We've put a lot of time, a lot of months, a couple years into getting to this point. So, here we are. Mr. McHarris gave a fantastic introduction. I'm glad this is being recorded because I wanted to jot down some of the notes. That was a very eloquent and articulate way to describe the general plan, its comprehensiveness, how it's going to serve the city, and how it's very forward-looking for a number of years. So, very pleased to be at this point. It's been fantastic to work with this group. And so without further ado, I'm going to jump into a nice, concise PowerPoint. I'm going to try and keep it as brief and focused as possible. I'll be happy to answer and entertain any and all questions when I get to the end. And without further ado, here we go. I'm going to share my screen. And bear with me while I get this thing loaded up. All right, very good. I'm assuming everybody's got my PowerPoint up. All right, good. I see some nods. Okay. So as mentioned, our purpose here this evening is to conduct a public hearing to certify the Milpitas 2040 General Plan Final EIR, and most importantly, adopt the Milpitas 2040 General Plan. So a quick overview of the presentation this evening. We'll talk about the process to get us to this place and develop the general plan. I'll provide an overview of the content of what's in it and talk a little bit about the land use map and how it was developed and what we're trying to accomplish with that. I'll provide you with a summary of the CEQA or environmental review process, as well as the public review process on the draft general plan itself. And then of course, we'll turn it over to council for questions, discussion, public comment, and council decisions. So for any members of the audience who are not familiar of what a general plan is, all cities and counties in California are required by state law to have an adopted general plan. The general plan reflects the community's goals and priorities and serves as the city's constitution or blueprint for future land use and planning decisions. And these include, but are not limited to, land use decisions. So where we place our residential, our commercial, industrial, business park, open space parks, how we plan for our infrastructure. So we do growth projections to make sure we're designing our roadways to have adequate capacity, providing for adequate water and sewer, storm drainage, things of that nature. Also making sure we address public services such as police and fire protection, parks, libraries, cultural activities, education, and also all aspects of resource conservation. So everything from clean air, sensitive habitat, climate change, greenhouse gas reductions, clean water, waterways, protecting our groundwater. So it's a very broad, encompassing document that touches on most aspects of city governance and city decision-making. So as Mr. McHarris mentioned, the city's last comprehensive general plan update was back in 1994. So you were due, it was time. This planning document that we've prepared for you has a 20-year planning horizon. So we're looking out approximately to the year 2040. And the update is a full overhaul. So we took the old one, and I don't want to say we threw it out, but we started with a blank piece of paper and we built this thing essentially from scratch. With that said, we kept an eye towards your existing general plan because there were a number of goals and priorities that still held true to this day. So for the ones that were still applicable, we've retained those and carried them forward, but we took a full bore, fresh look at this thing to make sure you guys had a modern, forward-looking 21st century general plan that reflects the Milpitas of today and also the Milpitas of tomorrow. So hopefully for all of you who sat through my presentations before, this is a very familiar looking graphic, and we've had this red arrow moving down methodically as we work our way through. So to get to this point, we started out by doing a lot of listening. So we presented an overview of what this process looked like to the community, and we held a series of visioning workshops, and that helped us identify community priorities and what some of the big ticket items were that we needed to focus on. We did a detailed documentation and analysis of your existing conditions. We identified a number of key issues and opportunities that we should spend further time researching and fleshing out. We prepared a very detailed and robust land use alternatives report, which looked at different possible change areas or opportunity areas in the city where we might want to refocus our land use priorities. We worked very closely with the GPAC, your General Plan Advisory Committee, to develop the goals, policies, and action items or programs that make up the general plan. That led us to the draft general plan itself, which then went out for a very a 6-week public review and comment period formally, although I think we had it on the street for closer to 4 months. We then moved in and prepared our environmental impact report, which is now complete. And here we are at the final stage for our public hearings. And there's been opportunity for public participation throughout the process, which I'll speak a little bit more specifically to on a subsequent slide. So all of these steps I mentioned led us to a number of supporting documents. I won't read all of them, but we had summary reports on the public outreach, detailed existing conditions, like I mentioned, land use alternatives. We developed through a series of meetings with the city council, the preferred land use map, which is the map that's in the general plan before you today. And then of course, the general plan and the EIR documents as well. So a lot of supporting documentation and reports brought us to this stage of the process. So as I mentioned, and the council has been very clear from day one that listening to the community is this council's very highest priority, and making sure that we prepare a general plan that reflects the values and priorities of the Milpitas residents and business community. And so to that end, we kicked this off with a series of 3 visioning workshops where we did, again, a lot of listening, a lot of interactive activities. The GPAC, I can't speak highly enough of your General Plan Advisory Committee. They did their homework. They came to their meetings prepared. We met a total of 13 times. All of these meetings were open to the public, and we provided opportunities for public comment. And their input and insight and direction was invaluable. And I just really want to commend them for their hard work in getting us to this point and their contributions to what I feel is a very high quality document for the city. We also prepared, we had 7 total meetings with the council prior to this one, and specifically with me and the consultant team. I know Ned and Jessica have been keeping you up to speed on the general plan, but we had 7 focused working meetings to flesh out key issues with the council. Published a series of newsletters to keep the community informed. One of our key outreach and information tools was the website, so milpitas.generalplan.org. We were constantly updating that with meeting notices, document libraries, opportunities to comment us. We had dozens and dozens of people sign up for email updates through the website. So I know Jessica has been very diligent about keeping those that have requested to be a part of this process, keeping them informed of meetings when those are upcoming. We had an opportunity to do a virtual public workshop in December of last year to present the draft general plan to the community. It was a really good interactive meeting. I provided an overview of it. Members of the public asked questions, provided feedback, both during the meeting and in writing. And then of course, we held our Planning Commission hearing on January 27th, where the Planning Commission, of course, recommended adoption of the general plan and certification of the EIR. All right, in terms of the content, what's in the general plan? Well, to put it succinctly, there's a lot. The state of California mandates that we include 7 required elements. These are land use, circulation, conservation, and we've also called yours conservation and sustainability, safety, noise, open space, which also includes parks and recreation for your general plan, and also housing. And as the council's aware, housing elements are kind of their own animal. Yours is already certified, and you'll be coming up for certification again, I believe, in 2023. So that's on a separate track and was not a part of this work effort. And then, so the state of California says these are the things we have to address, but they provide a lot of leeway in terms of how Milpitas addresses it. So your general plan does not look like San Jose's general plan, does not look like Campbell's general plan. Yours reads like yours. It's been very much customized to address your local issues and priorities. And to further that customization, we included a number of optional elements that aren't required by the state. So these include community design, economic development, utilities and services, community health and wellness, and we also have an implementation plan, which is going to help staff and the council keep track of how this thing is implemented over the course of the next 20 years or so. So each of these general plan chapters, or elements as we refer to them, are made up of a series of goals, policies, and action items. Goals are exactly that. They're broad statements of community desires, preferences, and the general plan's overall purpose. Policies provide guides to decision makers with respect to development proposals, future growth and resource allocation. And actions provide specific tangible steps or implementation items that the city can and will carry out to make sure that the goals and policies come to fruition. So I'd like to just briefly go through the goals of each of the elements. I've paraphrased these, but I do this just to provide a snapshot of the comprehensiveness and the breadth of issues that are addressed within your general plan. So within your land use element, we have goals relating to the balance of land uses, special planning areas, local and regional land use, transportation and its nexus with land use, new development, commercial centers, and job generation. Within your circulation element, we have goals specifically targeting complete streets, regional transportation, vehicle miles traveled, transportation practices, parking standards, and safe streets. We have a number of them in community design. So they range from community character, design excellence, how we address bicycle and pedestrian trails, how we deal with land use transitions between differing uses, and how we deal with infill development, hillside standards, gateways, landmarks, and wayfinding, public spaces and public art, and sustainable design. So a number of goals related to community design within that new element. In terms of the economic development, we have goals targeting how to strengthen the local economy, ensure fiscal sustainability and governance, specific economic development priorities for your opportunity areas, specific economic development opportunities, and also how to bolster and strengthen the community workforce. Your conservation and sustainability element addresses climate action, trees and vegetation, biological and aquatic resources, cultural and historical resources, architectural resources, mineral resources, and air quality. And in your utilities and community services element, we address everything from general services to water, sewer, stormwater and drainage, solid waste, electricity and natural gas, telecommunications, and also schools, libraries, and other public facilities. Within the safety element, we address the topics of geologic and seismic hazards, flooding, emergency preparedness, emergency services, hazardous materials, and climate resiliency and adaptation. Within the noise element, we have goals related to regulating excessive noise, both from mobile sources like vehicles and also stationary noise sources like industrial operations. And then we also have specific goals and policies related to your transit-oriented centers, which oftentimes have differing needs from other locations within the community. Within the parks, recreation, and open space element, we address the park and trail system, recreational opportunities, and open spaces. All right, thank you for bearing with me. I know that's a mouthful, but I really just wanted to articulate and reiterate the number of goals and the breadth of the topics that are addressed. So in addition to the goals, policies, and actions within each element of your general plan, another key component of this document is your land use map. So as the council's aware, the land use map assigns a land use designation to each parcel within both the city limits and the city's sphere of influence. This determines what types of development and land use may occur on each parcel, as well as the general density or intensity of development within any given land use designation. These designations are explained in detail on pages LU4 through LU9 of the land use element of the general plan before you. And I just wanted to remind the council that this map was developed through a very comprehensive and iterative process. We got input initially from the community. We got extensive input from the GPAC. And then as council will recall, we came to council a number of times over a series of 3 working sessions to further refine the key concepts and ultimately land on the land use map that is in the general plan before you today. So again, I just wanted to remind the council that this is the map you reviewed in detail. It reflects all of council's direction and input, and we've made no changes since the council last formally blessed that back in late 2019. So here it is. I realize on a computer screen or iPad or whatever you're holding, we're not going to be able to see the details, but it's in the draft general plan before you. So this is your updated land use map in the draft general plan itself. And in order to get to this point, we had a number of big picture land use goals that served as a roadmap to get us here. So some of the priorities that were articulated to us by the community, the GPAC, and the council were making sure that the map protected existing residential neighborhoods, spurred job growth and economic development by making the city more competitive in attracting large-scale regional employers, the tech industry, et cetera. looking for opportunities to revitalize existing neighborhood commercial centers by allowing for limited housing and expanded retail and office potential in select locations within Milpitas. Making sure that we complement and support recent and ongoing planning efforts related to the Metro specific plan and the Gateway Main Street specific plan. We were making sure we had opportunities to reduce existing and future land use conflicts by transitioning select areas from industrial manufacturing uses to more of a mixed use residential. How we can optimize land uses near transit. And of course, you've got your new BART station. So making sure that we have complementary uses around the Metro specific plan and beyond. And how we protect and strengthen the viability of the city's industrial lands. You've got a significant chunk of acreage dedicated to industrial and manufacturing, which serves the city's job base very well. So we made sure that we were complementary and supportive of that moving forward into the next 20 years of our 21st century. So as part of this process to get here, we identified 14 different opportunity areas where we had targeted change. And these were the subject of the analysis in the Land Use Alternatives Report, which we had an opportunity to review in detail with the City Council. And hopefully some of these slides look familiar. So I wanted to just kind of focus the council's attention on where land use changes occurred. So everything here that's not that kind of bland shade of gray is where we did have some degree of change or another on the land use map as we move forward. Some of these include simply the metro area specific plan and the Gateway Main Street, or the Main Street Gateway specific plan area. Those used to have parcel specific designations through all of those specific plan areas in your general plan. So if you ever made a change to a specific plan, you also had to do an amendment to your general plan. We've really simplified and streamlined it. Your new general plan simply designates those two areas as specific plan. And those specific plan documents and their corresponding land use maps guide and dictate what happens at the parcel level within those areas. So it's going to be much more user-friendly for both staff, the council, and also your development community with this new approach. So one of the themes we looked at as part of the land use map update was looking for ways to intensify and modernize your industrial areas and your business park areas. So we had some areas north and south of 237 along McCarthy that are already developed with business park and light industrial uses. All we really did in these areas is increase the allowable floor area ratio. Your numbers were quite low before, and so there's probably going to be a number of employers that would not look to relocate to Milpitas because they wouldn't be able to build at the intensity that today's workforce looks for in business park and light industrial areas. We also modernized the floor area ratios for your manufacturing area to accommodate some of the more modern high cube warehouses and just the different building types now that we have more of a modernized distribution and shipping infrastructure in California. We have some select areas where we focused on neighborhood commercial revitalization. So we introduced the neighborhood commercial land use designation, provides a little bit more flexibility for landowners in terms of providing incentives to redevelop their existing commercial centers. But overall, the land use designations and use types are not envisioned to change. It's just a carrot to help modernize some select areas. We also introduced a new land use designation called neighborhood commercial mixed use. This provides for some limited introduction of residential support uses within some of your neighborhood commercial centers. And again, with an eye towards trying to jumpstart some revitalization of areas that are suitable for commercial use and have that use now, but probably need a facelift or a little bit more modernization in terms of their site layouts and their building intensities. And of course, we have some areas transitioning from industrial manufacturing uses more to a residential mixed use. Most notably is the California Circle area. So the council will recall when we did our land use map activities together and we had a number of workshops, California Circle really became the focus of a lot of discussion. And so we've now refined the land uses within the California Circle area. And we have what we call a specific plan overlay and policies in the general plan that call for the preparation of a specific plan to address some of the infrastructure challenges, the land use conflict challenges, the ingress and egress challenges, and some of the lack of pedestrian connectivity in parks and open space amenities up in the California Circle area. So that was kind of a tour through the path that got us to this land use map before you. here it is again. And I think we're very, I know from my end and staff's end, we're very pleased with how this landed. All right, I'm almost done, so thank you for bearing with me. So wanted to move quickly through our CEQA, or our environmental review process. We kicked it off with an initial study and notice of preparation, which was out for a 30-day public review and comment period. We received 6 comment letters on the notice of preparation, all of which were addressed in the draft EIR, which is the bulk of the analysis. That's the meat and potatoes of the environmental work. That public comment period extended for 45 days on the draft EIR. We received no public comments during this review period. We did, which I take that as a sign that we got it right. We had a detailed environmental analysis. And what we did when we crafted your general plan is we wrote the document to be self-mitigating, in so much that the policies and the actions within the general plan elements provide the mitigation that you need to reduce environmental impacts to the greatest extent feasible. As I mentioned, we got no public comments on the draft EIR. We did get a late letter from VTA, and the VTA letter was basically speaking to the draft general plan, not the EIR. It was very complimentary of the draft general plan, and it had no substantive comments at all on the environmental analysis. So we then moved forward and prepared the final EIR, which includes your findings of fact and statement of overriding considerations, and incorporates the draft EIR by reference. In terms of the process for the public to review the draft general plan document itself, we provided a copy to council back in August of 2020. And at that time, we posted it on the website and let it be known that it was available for the public to review and access and start looking at. But we didn't formally start the 45-day public comment period until November 2nd, and that ran through December 17th. As I mentioned previously, we held a public workshop virtually on December 14th. We received comments on the draft general plan from a handful of individuals, including Allison McDonald, Barbara Jo Navarro, John Dahl, and I'll mention that John Dahl's letter was a compilation of a number of community members that coordinated to provide a single, very well organized set of comments. We also received the VTA comment letter that I mentioned, and also the Santa Clara County Public Health Department provided comments on the draft general plan. All of these public comments are included as an appendix to your staff report. And staff provided written responses to all of the comments provided by members of the public. Based on the comments that we received, staff and myself were not recommending any changes to the draft general plan in light of the comments that we received. And I do want to note and make sure that we put on the record that staff has identified some minor corrections and language fixes in the draft general plan that we intend to make when we deliver the final version, but none of these change any policy. There's simply some language cleanup. So for example, I may have referred to a Parks Master Plan when the correct terminology is a Parks and Trails Master Plan. So just some verbiage cleanup like that. So we just have some minor grammatical things to fix. So that basically concludes it. As we mentioned at the outset, our staff recommendation is that you conduct the public hearing, adopt the general plan, certify the EIR. And at this point, I will stop talking and I'll be happy to answer any questions and engage in council discussion. And I will turn my screen share off.
Thank you very much, Ben. It's been quite a journey up to this evening. I'll make a motion to open up the public hearing. Looking for a second.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Fan. All in favor of opening up the public hearing? A virtual roll call here. Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Councilmember Dominguez.
Aye.
Councilmember Chua. I'll need you to unmute your microphone, please.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano.
Aye.
Self denied. The public hearing is now open. Let's go straight to public comment tonight, folks. It's 2 minutes each. And so I'll look over to all our guests from across the Milpitas family community that are joining us here tonight on Zoom. I want to welcome folks that are watching at home or across the land of cornfields via Facebook Live or YouTube.com. Welcome, folks. Very special night here in the city of Milpitas. It's the general plan update. Okay, great. 2 minutes tonight, folks. It's the public hearing and your comments are happening now. If you are a guest tonight, a resident, a community member, someone's cousin, anybody, if you're here tonight and would like to comment, here we go, 2 minutes each. First up, we have Allison McDonald.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, and to City staff and our consultant, Ben Ritchie. I was on the GPAC for the latter part of the process, focused mainly on the land use plan. But I did read the whole document with interest. Was very excited about having this new plan come into play. I felt there were a few inconsistencies, and I sent a letter to all of you a while ago. Climate action and energy, electricity and natural gas section seems to conflict with the goal of ensuring a carbon-free energy future. The section on social services and emergency services seem to conflict because while other communities are establishing behavioral health response units to address mental health crises and be part of emergency response options, nothing along those lines was suggested, despite saying that emotional health and well-being are an integral component to personal and community health and should be supported. And then in the city neighborhoods part, I was questioning that we did not seem to have anything that was promoting and fostering diversity and inclusion in that section. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do want to note our city staff has replied and responded to all the public feedback that we received, and we'll go on to the next speaker here. Yuju Park.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yuju, and I'm a Senior Planning and Land Use Associate at Silicon Valley at Home. Just wanted to say we really appreciate all the work and public engagement that went into developing the general plan and EIR. We really think this is really exciting. I think it sets up the stage a lot for amending the housing element later this year, since a lot of the general plan elements mentioned, like land use, economic development, sustainability, they'll intersect very closely with housing. And so our hope is that after the general plan and the final EIR is adopted tonight, we look forward to working with staff as they begin to prepare the housing element this spring. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being our guest this evening. The public comment continues, folks. Please don't hold back. If you are here and you'd like to speak, please raise your virtual raised hand, and I'll be happy to call upon you. There's really no point in delaying your virtual raised hand if you'd like to speak. Now is the time. I do see folks joining us here tonight on Zoom. I see your names, a lot of familiar names. I wish I could say familiar faces, but we are here on Zoom. But hey, things are changing. Maybe we'll meet again, in person. Folks, raise your virtual raised hand if you'd like. I do want to welcome all our city staff. I see the directors and chiefs. Really glad we're all here tonight conducting the city's business, and our residents really appreciate it. Okay, well, hey, if that's it for the public comment, folks, this is the general plan update. Then I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a second by the vice mayor. All in favor of virtual roll call. Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Councilmember Dominguez.
Aye.
Councilmember Chua.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano.
Aye.
Self and I. Okay, that motion is carried. That we'll close the public hearing. Thank you for all the comments, folks. We'll bring it back up here to the council. I have a lot of thoughts. Our plans are so important. Our planning department is so important, and our city is so important. And I try to rely on some past history and experience here in Milpitas to ensure that if I'm making any decisions in the present or future, that I'm being very mindful of our past. And I'm excited tonight to really move this item forward. I do want to check in with, I think Ben might be the right one to go to. I'm not sure. We have Ben, but we also have our city staff. City manager, Steve, if I have some questions about the plan for the benefit of the public, who should I go to, city manager?
You have your choice. You have our consultant here that works for you, and you have our planning director as well.
Which is really great. It's a very comprehensive attention that we put on this very important plan. So I'm going to go with Ben just because he presented it, and he's our guest. So I'll go with Ben. I think when I look back on the transit area specific plan, we lost a lot of business zoning, particularly industrial zoning. And I know that a good city without its resources being spread has a strong business type of land use. And cities that have more residential sort of had their budgets and their resources stretched a little thinner, based on what I'm seeing in this region, especially. And it's imperative to me that our city, and I think for the benefit of the residents as well, and I hope I speak for a lot of the voices out here in our community, I think it's important for our city to have a strong industrial and commercial base, particularly with the zoning. And I'm really encouraged by some of the industrial areas, I think industrial opportunity areas, if I was listening correctly, and reviewing where we're going to increase the FAR so that industry can literally grow in those areas. So I'm really excited about that part of the general plan, growing our footprint for business opportunities. Overall, I do want to ask, Ben, are we losing a lot of our solely industrial or commercial to sort of more the mixed use designation?
No, not at all. We aggressively protected your industrial lands. I think you can count on one hand, there's just a handful of acreage citywide, and it's only up in California Circle where you had some parcels designated industrial that transitioned to a mixed use. And as you'll recall, Mr. Mayor, we were very deliberate in our discussions because you've had some transition that was already happening kind of piecemeal with a move to residential in that area. But all throughout the other portions of the city where you had industrial park or manufacturing or commercial, we protected all of those aggressively. So you did not have residential creep. And in the areas where we, throughout the city where we protected the business park and industrial designations, we came up with a new land use designation, business park research and development, which allows for notably higher floor area ratios than what you had before. And then we took your existing industrial park designation and we went from a 0.5 to a 1.0 floor area ratio. So in terms of business and job potential, this is a notable step forward in terms of the number of jobs, and we aggressively protected the acreage of your job space.
And that's more than I would wanted to hear. I'm just very happy with that. I think for the benefit of the public, I know we have residents here on the Zoom, and just really great to see the engagement. Even I think I see some planning commissioners on the Zoom here. Hey guys and gals. But no, that's great. That's exactly the answer, and more than the answer I wanted to hear. It really is an exciting time for Milpitas as we, I think, sort of work our way past the pandemic, and I think many of us understand that a lot of real estate development is going to be coming to Milpitas here as we get past COVID, and so this general plan couldn't have come at a better time. And folks, you heard Ben. Not only are we developing or updating our general plan, but we're ensuring that development is going to be strong in the long term for our city in terms of it being fiscally sound and having tax revenue generated through non-residential types. And so I think that's really great. Another point I wanted to bring up tonight, and I really appreciate being here and having this really open conversation among the community. I can imagine being our city council chamber right now and everybody's sitting around listening, and it's really a great talk here. I want to talk about the FAR for all the opportunity zones really east of the Union Pacific Railroad or Milpitas Boulevard. I do want to, for the benefit of the public, make sure I discuss some of the FAR changes that are happening and the building heights impacts, if there are any. If you can share with us, Ben, we've had some times in recent history, recent years, I guess I can say, where the community character was a key concern for many folks. And I want to ensure that as we do this general plan, at least we have a discussion and touch on the point of ensuring our community character isn't disrupted by particular FARs.
Absolutely. So we had a couple of select areas on the eastern portion of town where some changes were made from, you kind of had a hodgepodge, a highway commercial and professional office. So we really condensed those down into a neighborhood commercial designation and also a neighborhood center mixed use. And previously you had FAR allowances in the 0.4 to 0.5 range. And we did a very modest incremental nudge up to 0.75. And so 0.75, FAR can come in a lot of different flavors and forms. It can be a building spread out across a single site. Theoretically, you could build a really teeny base and go taller, but you have height limitations in your zoning code. So a couple of points I wanted to make is we made sure that with planning practice, a 0.75 FAR is absolutely considered to be neighborhood compatible for a community of Milpitas' size and scale. And the other point I wanted to make is height restrictions or height limitations are not addressed in the general plan. Your zoning code contains development standards which dictate building heights. And so if you have particular areas of the city, I would presume that a subsequent activity the city will undertake in the next year or two is going to be an update to your zoning code. With your new general plan, you now have inconsistencies with your zoning code because it's been based off past practices. So I don't want to speak for council priorities and budget allocations, but I'm going to speculate that you'll undertake that project here in the next couple of years. And as part of that zoning code update is where you will look at the specific zoning districts in specific locations within the city and determine what the appropriate height limitations are within those zoning districts. But the general plan does not regulate or dictate height.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ben. And this is great. I know our residents are somewhat pleased or satisfied with this information as we're getting it. Kind of another thing I want to discuss is the process, of new developments. I firmly believe that the decisions of our city are in the hands of our residents. The residents' voices are always going to be, in my heart and my mind, the most important voice there is. We are here because of our residents. And I'm not just talking about with the tax revenues. I'm talking about just the honor of serving. But let's just say we approve the general plan and there's an opportunity zone. I'll choose one. Let's go with the area over where the old Savers is, the Fiesta Plaza on Calaveras and 680 on the southeast corner. That's an opportunity zone, one of many that you've identified and we've identified. I mean, I think about all the times we had meetings and we said, here, we need something to happen for our community and to better our city. And so let's just use that opportunity zone as an example, which I hope will be a realization one day. As a developer comes in or the current owner of the property and they come into City Hall and they're looking to get a new development approved, and the general plan's in place, and it's allowed them to have the policies needed to redevelop, that would go to the usual process, correct? Would it go to the planning commission first, or maybe I'll go to Ned for this one.
A suggestion, yes.
Yes, that's correct. In that area, any development, proposal for new development that comes into the city would go to the Planning Commission. It does depend on the type of development that's proposed there a little bit. If it's minor, it may not go all the way to the Planning Commission. It may be determined at the zoning administrator level. But most large developments, certainly if that entire area were to redevelop, we would probably bump it up to the Planning Commission. And if there's any type of zoning amendment, or it may even come up to the council. So it kind of depends on the type of project.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ned. So you heard that, folks, all across Milpitas. You know, even with the new general plan, there's still really or the democratic process that's involved, and there could be the administrator route, and there could be the planning commission route, and it all just really depends, as you've heard from our director. And but there is a democratic process to it, and so I think I'm a little more reassured that our community will have a voice in all the development that happens, because here, frankly, it's a very small town, and you know, I've seen a lot of decisions affected by the voices in our community. I've seen big things not happen because voices in this community spoke up. And so that's really the point I'm trying to get to here is as we move forward to this general plan update going forward 20 years about, you know, I don't want our community to feel like we're not preserving our voices, the voices of our community, I should say. And so I have faith going forward that the voices of our community will always be heard with all the development that's happened, that is happening. You know, one thing I am here in this role myself is because I'm the voice of this community. And so housing development was one of the main reasons I sit here as a elected official and decision maker. So I do want to be very sensitive tonight, because that's the part of the community I'm coming from, and I'm able to sit here tonight and go over this just incredible general plan that will change our city for very much a lifetime, if I may say. And so I want to go to my last one here, Ben. Let me ask you, Ben. So for all the opportunity zones, you know, I think you briefly mentioned earlier that it's slight changes to the FAR. So I heard 0.5 to 1.0. Can you share with me in this whole general plan the maybe opportunity zones or locations or points on the map, however, what is the most, I'm not going to say extreme, but what is the most drastic changes to the FAR in the city?
The most drastic change to the FAR is going to be the industrial park area that is south of 237 along McCarthy Boulevard. So that previously had a designation of industrial park, which, as you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, we changed from 0.5 to 1.0. But for this area, we applied a brand new land use designation, which is business park research and development. And so while there's a number of tech campuses and job centers down in this location already, the new business park R&D land use designation has an FAR of 2.5. And so that is the most notable change. It's all concentrated down in that southwest quadrant of the city. It's all located west of 880 and south of 237. So that's the most notable change in terms of the FARs. The other areas throughout the community in your industrial park areas were more what I would call tinkering at the edges. Well, granted, we went from a 0.5 to a 1.0. For industrial parkland, 1.0 is still not dramatically large. So going to that 2.5 down in the business park area is the most notable change from what you had previously in terms of that question.
Thank you, Ben. I would even support going with the higher FAR. If 2.5 is not, it could be more appealing, maybe. How do we land at 2.5, Ben?
a little bit of horse trading, a little bit of best practices. We provided some, visual graphic examples of different development typologies, and that helps some of the GPAC and community members get comfortable with that type of increase in FAR. We also had a lot of input from our economic consultants on the process, talking about the types of building massing that tech offices and tech campuses are looking to construct. And so, and then we also took samples from nearby jurisdictions. So just based on planning practices, our experience, economic development, staff input, and consultant input, those numbers, I guess for lack of a better term, they felt about right. So how do we push the envelope a little bit without ending up with skyscrapers that clearly are not within the character of Milpitas? And so that's how we landed at that number.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Well, and I tried to really come up with some strong questions tonight about the general plan because it's such an important document. And so I want to thank each of the folks here, not just you, Ben, but Jessica. I think Ned really spoke to your leadership and professionalism and commitment to our city, and you have been everything that Ned has said tonight over the years that I've been a part of City Hall with you. So thank you, Jessica, and Ned, thank you. And I want to thank the rest of your team as well. I know there's just everybody did their part, actually, I bet. And so folks, if you're listening from planning, I want to thank you guys. And we're just getting started here. Let's go up with our city council here, my colleagues. Any virtual raised hands? Let's hear it. We're talking general plan 2040. Okay, next up we have Councilmember Fan.
Ben, great job as usual. I think the team at De Novo, really spent a lot of time carving into the details that is often missed in a process that is meant to be complex, I guess. Certainly that's been the case for the neighboring cities, but this makes our plan, I guess the whole process going through our update here seems a little bit more smoother than other cities. So I certainly appreciate your efforts there. I guess top of my mind is COVID and the impact that COVID has had on our economy, on our businesses that are impacted. And my question is, how does this plan, in particular, sort of address some of the challenges related to COVID, especially as it relates towards economic recovery? And how has the plan, or rather the draft plan, changed since the pandemic happened? Were there things that you wanted to do, but you had to make changes just because of COVID specifically, as it relates to land use?
Sure, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, what I'll mention is what this plan does as it relates to COVID is it provides flexibility. So we talked about increasing floor area ratio allowances within your commercial and industrial park and manufacturing districts within the city, but it doesn't mandate that they go to those heights. We didn't put minimums. It doesn't mandate that they go to the higher floor area ratios. So, this is obviously a topic of conversation in my industry. I talk with our economic consultants. I talk with other land use planners. And the consensus at this point is, from a land use map, from a general plan standpoint, don't make any knee-jerk reactions. Don't go out and say, well, we're going to just, de-zone all of our office and turn it into something else. It's just, I think the guidance is more steady as she goes. Allow the market to tell the community and the city where it needs to go. And we've tried to write this plan with enough flexibility to do that. As you'll see in some of the responses to the written public comments, we work very closely with your your economic development staff, with Alex. He reached out to the chamber. We had ample opportunities to do extensive outreach to the business community, and we did a lot of listening. We didn't hear anything from them in terms of we need the land use map to do this. I think a lot of the city's responses to COVID, the more targeted responses, allowing outdoor dining and just, temporary changes in parking to just, respond to some of the just kind of the crazy things that have popped up. So no, I think I would stay the course, and we've provided pretty tremendous flexibility. In terms of, is there anything I wish we had done different or changed in this plan since COVID happened? It's not the content of the general plan that I have any, I don't want to say remorse, but any wishes. I wish we could have conducted in-person meetings here at the home stretch. It's great that we're on Zoom, and I know the council feels this way about all of the important topics you deal with daily. But in terms of this plan itself, sitting where I am now versus sitting when the draft went out, there's really nothing that I personally would recommend that we change in response to COVID. And I think it provides the city with a tremendous amount of support for the business community and flexibility.
Absolutely. I think that flexibility element, it's a good framework to have just as best practice. I feel like when municipalities were developing these general plans all throughout the decades, it felt like a lot of it was set in stone, and the whole process of going through like a particular amendment for just a single project, it was time consuming, it was very expensive, and I'm hopeful that this flexibility can be adopted kind of just as a what's the word, institutional thing when it comes to land use, especially as we go forward towards the future. When we think about if we have to do this update again, well, we shouldn't have to really update it again in a really long time if we have that flexibility element. So thanks for thinking ahead there. Let's go into housing a little bit. Maybe you could elaborate more as to how this plan relates to our RENA allocation, and how the housing element will be touched on.
Certainly. So the housing element is going to go through its own process. And as you know, the RENA is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation. It's that magic number handed down from the state through ABAG that lands with the city. And the city needs to demonstrate that on your land use map and your zoning map, you have allocated a sufficient amount of acreage and at the correct densities to accommodate your fair share of the state's housing needs. And a lot of that is targeted towards lower income housing or special needs housing, which from a practical standpoint often translates into multifamily housing or higher densities. Usually, half-acre residential estates don't fill the niche for affordable housing. That usually comes in the form of multifamily housing. So we've done a couple of things to well position you to meet your RENA and have a successful process to update your housing element. First and foremost, we've protected all of your existing multifamily areas within the city. We have not decreased the allowable density of any of your multifamily areas within the city. And you have tremendous additional multifamily housing potential in the Metro specific plan area, and most likely within the Main Street Gateway specific plan area. So what we've tried to do is make sure that we do no harm in terms of you being in a good position to meet those needs. And we've also had a couple of what I think are dual benefit approaches. And with our neighborhood center mixed use designation, that's going to be an opportunity to accomplish two goals, hopefully. One is going to be hopefully provide a carrot to incentivize some landowners of commercial property to redevelop their sites with more modern looking. A lot of times you drive by a commercial center and it's a sea of parking with the building stuck in the back and it's just low 1960s construction. Whereas you go to more modern areas, the buildings are set up on the street. There's more liveliness. There's more pedestrian activity outside cafes. The parking's tucked behind and it's a little bit more vertical. And so with the neighborhood center mixed use will allow a small integration of housing that would be in the form of multifamily housing. So you're now going to have some more creative opportunities to intersperse housing within your neighborhoods without having development at the scale of what you've seen in the TASP around the BART station. So we've tried to be very strategic with that. So I think this general plan positions you well to meet your RENA on your next housing element update.
Have we considered, I guess, narrowing down the framework for conversions of units that are already existing, not necessarily in the form of redevelopment, but just if we're just, for example, if we're converting apartments to like workforce housing to workforce housing.
Most of the policies that specifically speak to those types of conversions are going to reside specifically within your housing elements, and you'll be embarking on that process in the next year or two. So for the elements in the general plan that's before you today, think of it as your general plan, but not the housing element, because you still have your adopted certified one. So those nuanced provisions for conversion to workforce housing are going to be addressed specifically in the housing element as opposed to the chapters or elements that are before you today.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Appreciate your time and hope to have you work on that element as well. Maybe.
Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to reviewing the RFPs when they come out. So
Sure.
Awesome. Great. Next up here, we have Councilmember Chua. Oh, let me slow it down. Hold on. Next up, we have, disregard, Councilmember Dominguez. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for the time. First off, I would like to thank staff for all of their work, and not only work, but really just the briefings. I really appreciated the briefings and the one-on-one with all of you. I know you guys have been taking the time to really walk all of us through this plan and being available for our community members. I definitely echo the mayor's sentiments. We're all here just to make sure that we continue the spirit of what our city is and definitely maximize the opportunities that we're going to have. Personally, I'm incredibly excited about the opportunity zones that have been identified in our city, not just because of what they could become, but also because of the funding that they may be able to attract in the future from what I hope is state and federal level in order to help support the growth. And so I'm excited to hopefully see that in the future and see that happen. In terms of the details, I do appreciate the details of the framework that have been shared around the housing and our RENA numbers. I think that's really important for our community to know that these numbers are not allocated or dictated by the city. These are numbers that are given to us, and we have to meet them. And so I am really thankful that we are protecting those areas and have identified the potential sites to meet those RENA numbers that are so critically important. And I look forward in seeing how we're going to move forward with our community, of course, on that aspect. One question that I did have, I had a couple questions that resonate, Councilmember Fan, so thank you for your questions. But one had to do in regards to our environment impact and the planning, land development around this. Because our general plan it's been a while since we've been updating it. Just wondering if maybe you could provide just some feedback if there was any elements around the environment or waterways that were maybe, is there anything that popped out that has changed since the last time that we did our general plan? And what are we doing to ensure that we conserve those waterways as we're moving development into our planning in our city?
excellent. Thank you for the question. Since your last 1994 general plan, we have taken what I'll consider to be the modern benchmark of a sustainable approach to environmental protection in this current document. A number of state laws have changed and federal laws, everything from the Clean Water Act, how it's implemented by the Army Corps of Engineers, to how the State Water Resources Board. So what we've done is we've tried to take a portfolio of what I call BMPs, best management practices, with respect to everything from controlling point source runoff to controlling contaminants to, invasive weed abatement, protecting native grasses, plants, and native species. It's a holistic, comprehensive approach. We have biologists on our staff who are intimately involved in helping us write these policies. And so there's a number of environmental protections as they relate to your waterways. We also have a number of policies looking to make higher, greater beneficial use of your waterways as recreational resources and amenities. So talking about lighting standards nearby, talking about safe public access, coordinating with different districts that may have right-of-way ownership or legal authority of the waterways. So we've really tried to approach them from multiple angles to not only make sure they perform better, but make in terms of environmental protections, but to make sure that they're more of an attractive public amenity for the Milpitas community to use for recreational purposes.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that answer. And then in terms of the details or the framework, one thing I just ask, and I know it's so hard with COVID, and yeah, I think you're right. We all miss the one-on-ones that we were traditionally used to. I think it's just as we move through this, just just sharing with the public and continuing that communication of the how. And I know all of you have been doing an amazing job. At least as one member, I have felt that I've been able to understand that. And I know that we're going to continue to do that, but I definitely just want to make sure that our community feels that we're going to definitely move through this together. And as this develops, we'll definitely make sure that we touch that on that. So I do appreciate the efforts of all of you that you guys have been doing, and definitely just want to make sure that we focus some attention to that as we move through the development of and the implementation of this plan. In terms of some of the aspects that have been touched on, the emotional health and promoting the promoting health and equity, I definitely sense that. I just feel that this plan does allow us to do that, and we'll be able to implement that in different sections. And I do appreciate the flexibility that this plan is providing us to do that in the future. And so that is important, I think, for all of us to ensure that there is equity as we're moving forward with land development, and that we are promoting the emotional health of our community. And I do think that is well, I know that's one of our priorities that we have already set as a city. And so I definitely see how it's going to be married. And so I appreciate that flexibility that this plan is providing. So thank you so much. I don't have any more questions. I think you guys have done an amazing job, and continue the good work. Thank you very much.
Great. Next up, we have Councilmember Chua. Welcome, Councilmember.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. First of all, I really appreciate the work that has been done here. It's amazing. And I was fortunate enough to be on the Planning Commission when we had a couple of joint presentations to the City Council and the Planning Commission. And I'm just in awe that the pieces that I like at that time that was presented are still here. So I'm excited about it. First, if you please, Ben, if you bring up the map. You can do that. So number one, this gray area right here, the business R&D, the old Cisco, really excited about that it's still the research and development area. And this one, this netted one, that is going to be part of the Metro specific plan, is part of the innovation district. That is really awesome. And the one thing that I'm really great work is, I don't know how you guys did it, but you did it. And it's amazing to me. It's the neighborhood commercial mixed use. And this is really where it's at, because it's all over town. You're right here in this area by Landis. There's one area at Calaveras right there. And there's one at Dixon Landing right here. and another one in by the Coyote Creek. And that's an outstanding job, I think, because it's really mixed use. It's embedded in the central, it's sporadic, which is what it's supposed to be, because we're trying to have a neighborhood commercial mixed use. So I really appreciate that very much. And also one of the things, there are three things, and this is the third one. I don't know how you guys came up with this, but it's an excellent, excellent idea of having Midtown specific plan, this light blue one, and this Metro specific plan, the beige one. Because like you said, this is kind of fluid area and we don't need to change the general plan. We just need to change these two specific plans to make any changes. Because I see this being active in the next few years. And I just want to thank you all for having all these elements together. And it's just an outstanding job. And thank you, Ned. Thank you, Ned, for your leadership as always. You always know where you're going and you always get there smoothly. Thank you all.
Okay, great, fantastic, fantastic. I see a number of virtual raised hands up, and when you are done speaking, please lower your virtual raised hand. I want to give everybody an equal opportunity. Next up, we have the Vice Mayor, Carmen Montano.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to touch on a little bit of what everyone has spoken on, and I appreciate all their comments. First of all, Ben Ritchie, you did an excellent job. I really do like how you put all the pieces together, and you work with all the staff that needed to put some input in. And especially the GPAC, I want to thank them because they are the community. They're the ones that gave you all that good feedback. So that is really great. As far as Milpitas, you know, I've been here since 1964, and I've seen this city grow from an agrarian community into a suburban high-tech community. So, you know, I've kind of grown with this area. And some of the land uses have really taken off. So our city is going through a transformation right now. And what I really appreciate about Milpitas is that it's very diverse, not only in terms of, it's diverse in many facets, not only in the population, ethnicity, but also in our land use. I mean, we have, and the land use is, what I love about it is that we're balanced. We're not too much of this and we're not too much of that. It's all, everything just fits right on. It's balanced, and that's really important for a city. For example, we have the industrial and manufacturing, and we also still have our preservation of our neighborhoods. We also have the shopping centers, the commercial. So all that is what makes a great city, and that's why Milpitas is such a great city. We're focusing on the family. We're a family-oriented city. We have open space, parks. We have hillside preservation. We have safety. We have high score. We have good schools because of the high API scores, and our housing element. We've done a really good job in our fair share with all the other cities. If you look at our housing element from previous, our city is probably one of the cities that have provided the most housing stock. So I'm right there, I'm gonna stop right there. Housing stock. We've created a lot of housing. However, we still need to improve in our low-income housing, such as other cities. But at least comparing to the other cities, we've provided a lot. We always get a lot of kudos from other cities. Say, hey, you guys have been providing a lot of housing stock in the whole area. It's just, and now we're just gonna need to focus on the low income. But we're still one step ahead of all the other cities that have not even provided as much housing stock as we have, and we're still continuing that. You spoke about the ingress and the egress, so that would be the road circulation, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Ben. Yeah, so I think that's where we really need to find some, because as population grows, we're going to have more, and the jobs keep growing, you know, new innovations, new technology, a lot of entrepreneurs coming into this area, creating new jobs. And so the traffic is probably the number one. It's synonymous with housing. They both go together. So the circulation of the roads and finding new ways to have the egress and ingress is probably what we need to work on. And and it's not just Milpitas, it's a regional issue. It's a huge issue. But I do like the mayor talked about opportunity zones. There are a few commercial businesses that could use a facelift, if you will. They're really sort of kind of run down, and I don't know what incentives we as a city can give those commercial districts, those commercial areas that are kind of run down. But I do like the fact that we have preserved that business park, because way back, I remember I was a bit upset because I was saying, oh no, you cannot change that area over there, the business park, to 2.5 southwest quadrant. I thought that they had changed it from a commercial or business park to a residential, but somehow I'm glad that got preserved, or it got reversed, because that was if we lost that would really impact that whole area, because it would be like a sore thumb sticking out, because you have all those businesses and then all of a sudden you're going to have residential right smack in the middle. So I'm glad that you preserved that. We preserve that. That is so important, because you want to give opportunities for new businesses to come in, new technologies. You might have a Google that is looking for a huge campus area. You might have some other technologies, new technologies coming in. And then one more question: what's the FAR, the FAR on the warehouses? I wanted to compare that. Does anyone know what is the FAR on the warehouse at McCarthy, at the Amazon? Does anybody know?
I can't speak to the specific project-specific FARs. I can tell you what the land use designation is, not a site.
Probably Ned would know. Ned, do you know what the FAR is on the warehouses on McCarthy Ranch?
Yeah, that area is currently zoned industrial park.
Right.
And the current FAR is 0.5, so it's either 0.5
Okay.
or just be something below that.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm just glad that business park is the FAR is 2.5, which is a lot of businesses look for the huge areas, because, like I said, technology changes. I'm really glad that our portfolio as a city is very diverse. And when I mean a portfolio, I mean in terms of investing, to making sure that we're balanced, because that's so important. And Milpitas it's a gem, and that's why we're going to continue to thrive in the city economically. And it's you're going to have a lot of companies wanting to move to Milpitas. So I'm glad that we're preserving our industrial and manufacturing sites in one quadrant, because we're going to have a lot of people. Our economic growth will continue, because I see light at the end of the tunnel. But thank you so much for all your hard work. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor Montano. Very wise words. Appreciate you. I do see virtual raised hands. Let's continue this discussion. Next up, Councilmember Finn.
Yeah, just a point of inquiry. When we refer to quote unquote opportunity zones, are we referring that in a general plan context, or as in the federal tax code context through the opportunity zone program, the opportunity zone funds?
As it's been thrown around through this process, it's been a term specific only to the general plan, and we used it for the land use alternatives report. So once you adopt this map, the opportunity areas don't have any other legal standing or tax standing that differs from any other parcel in the city. And those federal tax programs you're speaking of differ from this general plan and what we're talking about now.
Have you done work on the federal program by any chance?
I'm aware of the various planning tools, specifically personally. There's some nuance. They kind of have similarities to a specific plan. We used to use the term enterprise zone. And so I'm peripherally familiar with them, but I'm not the go-to expert, so I won't pretend to say too much on the topic. So.
Sure, no worries. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Fan, for the thorough discussion. I really appreciate it. Okay, great. I'm looking around the dais to my colleagues for any further discussion. I do want to go to our city manager. I do want to hear from our city manager here. Come on, folks. It's Steve McHarris. I want to hear from our city manager. I'd like to go to Steve to hear his thoughts. I know that we've heard from many people, but our city manager, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So I do hold dear to what I said in my opening remarks about the planning process. And my remarks were specific to this plan, this document that I've been along this journey with all of you. And in fact, I know it started even before I came on. I think this has been going on for some time. So I would start with things that were touched on: the public process, the public input, the GPAC, the participation has been beyond thorough from my experience working in this field, having worked in this field for most of my career. I would say I'm extremely satisfied with that. The land uses that we spent a lot of time on and touched on tonight, those were, I think, really did address some of the thoughts I had, as well as the community, and I think even the property owners. And those are the areas we touched on where we could use a little bit more work. I mean, some of the areas are aging, and something, if it's not happening on its own, possibly is the government holding that back, through our regulations. And so looking at that from a different lens and having the expertise of our consultant, the Novo Planning Group, and Ben Ritchie, really helped us see that. We did ask for that. We identified it, and they came in with some creative solutions that still fit the community character. That's really important too. So I think the plan really hit a home run in every element that it covered. And I guess that's the other thing too, those extra elements, that's really special and nice and unique for our community. So overall, I think it fits us well, and I think it comes from us. I don't think this thing and these policies, they didn't come from the outside. As Ben mentioned, this isn't San Jose, this isn't one of the other communities, this is Milpitas, and that's what this plan reflects. So in that, I think we're all, sounds like from the comments, we're all very satisfied with the work and appreciative. And I'm as excited as I think all of us in seeing this plan through. This is a once in many people's careers, once in a career, and possibly a once in an elected's career, to have a process go through and approve and have your fingerprints on this and know that we have left this community in better shape with a better plan than when we arrived. So I think that'll conclude my comments.
Right on. Love to hear it. Thank you very much, Steve. I do see a virtual raised hand. Let's go to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had one more comment that I forgot to mention. With our mixed use, currently, as Councilmember Chua had mentioned, we have mixed use, which is a good thing. However, what I have been noticing throughout the years, our mixed use developments have not been utilized. They're sitting empty, and I think that's because the FAR is just too small. I think maybe perhaps work on making that FAR ratio larger, so that way we can attract more businesses, because they are, as you walk, if you might want to go take a stroll and look at them inside the building, because there's no one there, and they are pretty small. So maybe perhaps I'm thinking, just increasing it so that way we can try to get more businesses to move in. So anyway, just want to make that comment. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. All right. If there's any further comments, hey, you know how it goes here in the city, and even with the general plan, every 10 to 20 years or so, there's always going to be uniqueness to every parcel. I think the vice mayor brought up a very decent point. And, you know, it's incumbent upon our city council, to commission the planners to work with every parcel to ensure that we are putting enough planning into it as needed. So that is a great point, Vice Mayor. And I think just going forward, as in the past, we'll always take a look at every parcel to ensure that it is utilized optimally. So I appreciate that. Okay, great. Any further comments? Because I'm telling you, I might move to the motion here pretty soon. Yep. I think we said enough thank yous and appreciations and all that stuff. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and make a motion here on the one and only agenda item tonight. I want to make a motion to adopt the resolution certifying the Milpitas 2040 general plan final environmental impact report and adopting the Milpitas 2040 general plan. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Come on, here we go. We got a second from Councilmember Chua. All in favor of agenda item number 1, virtual roll call. Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Councilmember Dominguez.
Aye.
Councilmember Chua.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano.
Aye.
And myself as an aye, the motion is carried. Item number 1 on tonight's agenda is approved. Congratulations to all. And I look forward to seeing our planners come back as we, I think we'll be looking toward the zoning ordinance now. And so that's next up soon. I have faith. So that'll be great. So hey, I want to thank everybody for being a part of it. Let's not forget about our community members, most importantly, our residents and our planning commissioners that are here tonight. This general plan had to go through a lot of hurdles and hoops and gauntlets and whatnot. And so it's just really, really special to see everybody on Zoom tonight because I know everybody played a part. And the plan will be the plan, and we'll always reflect on the plan. And I'm so proud I got to be a part of this myself. I got to say, very special. I get to say I was a part of it. And like the city manager said, this might be a once in a career thing. So that's it, folks. Tonight, everybody have a great evening. And if you're out in the roads, I think it's raining outside. So be safe. Take care, everybody.
Have a good night.